Here's another matchup I was vaguely excited for. Tzeentch versus Skaven, the magical shootout of many colored lights. Today I'm facing off here. I've got an Exalted Lord of Change in my starting army. Of course, going to be on Domination once again on the new Black Ark map. I've got a new Chaos Knight of Tzeentch. I say new. It's still the same unit. They've got fancy new models alongside the Warriors of Chaos rework. Cultist of Tzeentch is going to be my actual caster. He's got Fireball, Cascading Fire Cloak, Wand of Whimsy, no spells on the... No, that's not true. I do have Blue Fire of Tzeentch on the Lord of Change here, and the Portal Glyph, of course, for Fury Summons. 4 Blue Horrors, 1 Pink, and a Forsaken. In reserve, got some Doom Knights, 3 Spawns, 2 Forsaken, 4 Furies, and 1 Blue Horror. For the Skaven, Icket Claw leading the way with the Plague Priest backing him up. He's got a Warp Lightning Cannon, 1 Plague Wind Mortar, 2 Gutter Runners, Teeth Breakers, Regiment of Renown, Rattling Guns, 1 Clan Rat, and 2 Skaven Slaves. In reserve, Natty Boobo's Sharpshooters. He's got the Vixtrin's Death Squad, Ixchia's Triads, 2 Rat Ogres, 2 Storm Vermin, Sword and Shield, 2 Wolf Rats with Poison, 2 Clan Rats, Spears and Shields, and 2 more Skaven Slaves. So let's get to it. One of the reasons I was excited for this matchup is it's interesting to me to think about like the back and forth here. Like, yes, Skaven significantly outranges Tzeentch and has much more long-range firepower, but Tzeentch, surprisingly enough, can amass a significant amount of DPS up close. They're probably one of the only factions that can equal the DPS of Rattling Guns in a medium-range engagement, but we'll see today. Icket Claw up on his Doom Wheel, of course, is going to be mobile and armored, 2 things which should help him not get sniped too hard. Hopefully we'll be able to dodge some of the magic missiles I'll be slinging his way. And yeah, the armor, of course, helps a little bit against the missile fire of the blues and the pinks. 110 armor up on his Doom Wheel, of course. And also carrying the Brass Orb, plus Howling Warp Gale for that sweet aerial lockdown. Going to be very important against a faction like Tzeentch. Any faction that can take Furies is going to be very dangerous. Or any faction with a significant amount of ranged units, of course. So, yeah, Skaven will have their work cut out for them in that way. But let's see. Icket advancing across the field, crackling green. Man, I love his Doom Wheel specifically. One of the coolest unit models in the game. In Warhammer 2, I should say. He's in there somewhere, I promise, in that cloud of green lightning. Oh yeah, looking very fly, Icket. Wheeling around without a care in the world. Sent my Chaos Knights of Tzeentch down onto the low ground. Let's go take a look at them before this big engagement kicks off. Summoned a couple of Furies in. Yeah, these guys are going to come get involved in just a minute, but just so you understand, they are also significantly increased in size and, of course, have new, unique unit models. But anyway, let's fly back on up and watch as the Furies start to make their assault. They get hit by some Poison Wind Mortars, but also draw the mortar fire down onto the Clan Rats below. Between the Rattling Guns and the other units firing in, the Furies run out of steam very quickly. They are very squishy units after all, even with the barrier. But thankfully I can summon one more, even if it's just to tie down for some time. Wolf Rats countercharging back in. These are the Poison variant, I believe. Yes, both Poison variant, although the magic damage would be very good against demons. In general, a rule of thumb, and one thing you'll hear me continuously say in this early access time period, is take magic damage. Take lots and lots of magic damage anytime you face off against a monogod faction or a faction you expect to take a lot of demonic units. You want that sweet magic damage. So, of course, Icket Zap here doing okay work. Doesn't have a lot of expensive units to shoot out because I'm keeping my Lord of Change and my Cultist as well away as I can. Little Kindle Flame proc there for the Plague Priest. Also Fireball him a little bit. And unfortunately, I don't have any way of applying Warp Fire to further decrease his armor, but it's okay. The blanketing of the many colors should be enough to take him down. Summons in a unit of Plague Monks before he bites the dust, and the Teeth Breakers also open up, doing some nice damage to those Blue Horrors. Icket moving down along with some Wolf Rats, coming into contact with the Forsaken. Getting close here and watch. Another Fireball going to be slung, I believe. Yep, there it goes, flying past towards the Plague Priest. Man, did it actually just sail through the arch there of the... Man, holy cow, I don't think I've ever seen that before. Very impressive. Brass Orb also coming in, doing some pretty good damage to the blues, but the blues, with the power spike of Wand of Whimsy and Kindle Flame, can fight most Skaven units in melee just fine, like the low tier, you know, Clan Rats, Skaven Slaves, stuff like that, so I'm really not too worried about this combat, but for the time being, I still haven't captured my home objective. This is a consistent mistake I've been making on this Black Ark map, is I tend to play very aggressively here and go up and capture my opponent's home objective, perhaps, you know, capture this side objective, but often fail to capture my own. So hopefully I'll send someone back there to take care of it in just a minute, but for the time being, the Plague Priest does manage to survive a little bit here, get some damage, draining out those Forsaken. They start to run out of steam. Here comes the big glowing bird. Gonna call in another unit of Furies here and try to get some work done. Perhaps throw a little cascading fire cloak if I'm within range. The cultist is still mostly staying far out of range here because I haven't been able to fully shut down the warp lightning cannon. Another really nice howling warp gale here, locking down these Furies in the sky, preventing them from getting into combat with those expensive range units. But finally, the summoned Furies do get through. Managed to get on Ikit Zap Zap here. Ikit himself eating the blue fire from the Lord of Change. Lord of Change really wants to be swooping down and terror routing away as much of this Skaven infantry as I can. My opponent here also got his Wolf Rats back on my home objective and is not actually capturing it for whatever reason. A little bit strange. I don't know exactly what's going on with the capture situation there. But anyway. Yeah, the Lord of Change doing some damage to the Clan Rats. Furies do get through, start to get on the Poison Wind Mortars, finish them off, trying to finish off the Teeth Breakers. Also, over here we've got some Vixtrin's Death Squad, the Regiment of Renown Triads, and the Regiment of Renown Death Runners going to run in here. And, you know, my opponent, I think, definitely expected them to do well. The problem is, I don't know if he pops Concealment Bombs or not. I don't think so. Without Concealment Bombs, they're going to get spotted relatively early and just get absolutely blanketed in the fire of these blue horrors, and then promptly probably lose to them in melee. Let's see. We'll keep the background. You can see my knights finally swept up and over. We'll go take a look at them in combat in just a second. But just so you understand how cost inefficient this actually is for the Vixtrin's Death Squad. Engagement surprised us both, but I think just because the blue horrors have more than double the unit model count, they're also going to continue firing in melee. Should be pretty good. Anyway, a little bit of a camera glitch there as the fire rains down from the sky. These knights are all caught up in a big blob around. Oof, and they just get fireballed by their own sorcerer, caught up in a big blob all around Ikit. There's a bunch of storm vermin in here, so not the best situation for them to be in, but might as well just try and leave them in combat rather than force them away. I think I am still going to try and force them away, though. Furies do come in, finish off Ikit Zap Zap. Should be able to come in here and finish off the Teeth Breakers as well. Eventually, some Skaven Slaves, Gutter Runners did come back, cap this objective. So I am a little bit behind on victory tickets, but doing pretty well on damage value. You can see there, like I said, the Vixtrin's Death Squad ran in, did some solid damage, but eventually just can't take a single group of blue horrors, which is pretty sad. I mean, it's kind of to be expected, right? The Eshin units are very squishy, relying on their physical resistance, and melee defense is pretty good, but when you're so heavily outnumbered like that, oftentimes if their unit models are fighting 2 horrors or 3 horrors at the same time, even with their much superior stats, they still won't win, as we saw. And of course, the horrors in the back ranks also will keep shooting while the horrors in the front ranks are in melee. So a little bit of a rough situation. We've got the Storm Vermin facing off against the badass new Chaos Knights of Tzeentch. You cannot deny those models look much better. They've got unique swords, unique shields. Very cool. Ikit coming in here, trying to disrupt them. Should be able to actually rout them away here with the support of the Storm Vermin. So, despite me doing quite a bit of damage to my opponent's army, we're a little bit on the back foot in terms of objectives, but got some Spawn and Forsaken advancing now. Try and break up these very weakened Skaven units. Now that a lot of the missile units have been dealt with, I can start to bring out more of my own melee power without being too worried. Of course, both Forsaken, Spawn, unshielded. Forsaken have a little bit of armor, but in general they are quite vulnerable to Skaven shooting, so nice to have the Furies initially to help shut things down, the Knights, and then follow up with the melee punch. But speaking of melee punch, Ikit's still online here. Both Storm Vermin still quite healthy as well. Ixchia's Triads managed to avoid that poor engagement down on the low ground. Instead, we got some Gutter Runners there, which is probably a pretty good call. Don't have any more ammo on my blues, so Fireball there. I think we did a little bit of Blue Fire as well. Just, you know, stacking some different effects on poor Ikit Claw. Swing and a miss there on the army ability. That's just fine. I'm going to recap this objective. Start to resecure. We've got Natty Bubo's sharpshooters coming out. So both of us kind of preparing for the second phase here. Chaos Knights come back from route with just 12 unit models and then promptly route again. Kind of hilarious, to be honest. Some more blues also coming down to reinforce this low ground objective. Gutter Runners moving in. Problem is with the Gutter Runners, they're... yeah, with the Shuriken variant at least, their range is relatively short. They really don't have a choice but to come within range of like the second group of blues that's coming in. And likewise, I don't know, maybe slingers are better in this context. I'm not really sure. I would need to play around with it a little bit myself and see. But I would think the extra range of the slingers would help you kind of avoid a lot of dangerous situations, like with these blues right here, but we'll see. Lord of Change coming down to support this engagement. We've got the Natty Bubos, so I've got to be careful not to get sniped out, but basically I've taken no damage on my Lord of Change, so that's fantastic. Heathbreakers resummoned here, coming back in to help hold back my forces, trying to break this objective. Fortunately, these Storm Vermin both just get absolutely mashed by angry blue spawn with their armor sundering. Able to bring the Storm Vermin down to only 60 armor. Stats are really not that great anyway, and they just get mauled, especially with the Forsaken infantry supporting there. That being said, my opponent's still back pressuring with the Hounds, trying to stay up on the Domination objectives if he can, but we are swiftly moving towards a 3 cap as I cap my opponent's home field objective, so things are looking pretty good. Despite the fact that I'm slightly behind on victory tickets, my opponent is now going to stop getting any whatsoever, so painful situation for sure for the Skaven, but Lord of Change comes in here, terrifies away the Ixchia's Triads. Just such a strong tool, even without any spell casting, just as a flying monster with Barrier and Terror, also known as Terrier, which is into something else entirely. But speaking of Terriers, these wolf rats here, wolf, doggo, rats, things, they're going to get engaged by this Forsaken. It won't go too well for them, but they definitely look very cool. And for the Skaven, we've got some Rat Ogres coming in finally to try and push back the Forsaken. More Clan Rats, the Spawns also, just such a strong unit. Even after, I think there were some changes to capture weight. I'm sure you'll see some testing videos perhaps on some other channels about the new capture weight system. I believe Monstrous Infantry were nerfed to be the same, more or less, as single entity monsters. Like, all monsters are just the same now. And I'm not sure of all the other changes. It's not final anyway, so don't take anything here as gospel. But, yeah. Heathbreakers here having a hard time avoiding getting stuck up. Spawns are very sticky after all. Those tentacles start melting in the hot sun. They tend to become like gum, if you didn't know. Anyway, the Gutter Runners eventually do prevail here with the support of the Natty Bubo sharpshooters and some other units, able to push me off of this objective, but it's a little bit late. Turin is now at the point where he's going to have to 3-cap me. I guess I gave away who my opponent was. Yeah, not that it's a big deal, but Turin here, it getting routed finally by the Cultists. Kind of got caught up in the spawn too. The circle beating of spawn, very strong. Brought in some Doom Knights, charged down, and just wrecked Rat Ogres. Doom Knights also get the cool new models, of course, so we'll watch them up close. Fortunately, I apologize, I did miss. They got a really nice charge on those Rat Ogres and did a ton of damage, but now just pulling back up into the air. Getting shredded by the Rattling guns, though. Got to turn around in a big hurry and try and go after them. Shut them down. Oh, yeah, this is what we've all been waiting for, right? A couple of them drop. Overwhelming fire is just too much. They will get into combat here. And, yep, whatever that was. Oh, it's totally fine. They eventually got there. There it is. Victory for Tzeentch. Very nice. Well played to turn my opponent there. And yeah, I mean, in terms of breakdown, I think the long-range tools for Skaven are definitely very strong, but Furies being so cheap, so readily available, especially in Domination, where you can pull them quickly out of reserve, and especially on that map where they start pretty far forward, even though that map has a ton of open space to use these long-range kind of artillery options, you do have to be careful of the counterattack there. And while it's nice to have Howling Warp Gale, having to spend magic resource in order to lock those units down, and then also having the counterattack to be able to actually snipe them out of the sky quickly, it's definitely tricky. Definitely going to be tricky, you know. It's almost why I would consider it's tricky too with the Clanician units because, again, Furies do magic damage. One thing, again, balancing not being final here, one thing that's been pretty universally recommended by all the content creators to Creative Assembly is to increase the price of Furies. So I would probably expect that to happen for Immortal Empire's releases. But regardless here, taking a look at the rest of the values, blues in many cases strictly overperform, so in a lot due to the cultist. 228 kills and still less than 800 value on the Forsaken, which is fine. Tzeentch Knights also didn't pay for themselves. Neither did Big Bird, but just his terror presence was enough at the end of the day. Spawns coming in the third quarter definitely did a great job. And of course, the OP Furies definitely carried me, I would say, in this match, as did the blues. So for the Skaven side here, Ikit struggles a little bit. There's a bug with his ammo, so he didn't get to skirmish with his Doomwheel Chariot as much as he should have. But 2,200 value on the Teethbreaker's Rattling Guns. I definitely think because of the speed debuff of the Rattling Guns, they can kind of be used in tandem with some other tools, plus Howling Warp Gale to try and control Furies, and also to just shred them up close. Yeah, I definitely like that pick quite a bit here, especially because they have Concealment Bombs too as a Regiment of Renown ability. In terms of the rest of the build here, Natty Bubos almost paid for themselves in that short amount of time, so given that they have stock, I might have opened with them instead of Ikit Zap Zap, and then maybe you bring Ikit Zap Zap out later, or maybe you don't bring it out at all and just take more Jezzails. Not really sure. Definitely wouldn't take the Clanician Infantry here, though. All the magic damage of Tzeentch makes them very vulnerable. I'm not totally opposed to just taking more of Stormvermin, and even though these two didn't necessarily perform particularly well, I do think the pick of just reliable heavy infantry might help you hold down an objective. But regardless, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.